have the pleasure of introducing Gil Penalosa. He's been here this week and just been a prince of a human being with us. He worked out of our office, and he webcasts 880 cities. If you know the webinar that he has, that's a worldwide webcast of over 700 people worldwide that attend his webinar on Tuesdays. He cast that out of the Chattanooga Design Studio this week, which was just an exciting and rewarding event for us. But you know, Gil has really had a renowned career to date, and he has launched 350 initiatives in over 300 cities in all the continents of the world. He's been Planetson's top 50 most influential urbanists. He's been twice the chair of the World Urban Parks Commission. He's the founder of, as I mentioned to you, the Canadian nonprofit 880 Cities. And he's the founder of Cities for Everyone, the webinar that I mentioned to you, which is an enormous advancement in the community of urban design and education in urban design. He'll tell you tonight and expand upon the fact that he transformed 121 kilometers of streets in Bogota, Colombia, into a Ciclovia Open Streets program that exists today as an open, every Sunday, public space gathering in that community. And it's a tremendous, tremendous undertaking. And 2 years ago, Gil ran for mayor of Toronto and changed the narrative of that campaign. And after 100 days, he received over 100,000 votes. So we have someone upon us tonight that really, really understands urbanism, leadership in community, leadership in cities, what cities need to thrive. And so it's my distinguished honor to welcome with you and give us a Chattanooga welcome to Gil Penalosa.
He's picking it up.
Gil, I didn't mess it up today.
Yes. That's my franchise. Okay, perfect. Thank you. So nice to have spent this week. Not one day, I didn't arrive last night and I'm leaving tomorrow. So they invited me to have this talk with you. But I thought it would be even more interesting if I could come Sunday night and then Monday we went all over the place with Dan and Scott and Eric and then we've had meetings with the planning staff, with transportation, with this morning with older adults. Yesterday at noon with parks and play, hosted a play court. And of course I'm not an expert on Chattanooga, but I want to share some ideas. And one of the ideas is that Chattanooga should become a really, really great city. It's already a good city, but it could be great. Some of the things I think that a good city is where a child on a tricycle or an elder on a wheelchair can safely and joyfully go anywhere. So let's think about it. Can a child on a tricycle or an elder on a wheelchair go anywhere in Chattanooga? No. But maybe it could in the future. I mean, those are the kind of goals that we need. I mean, it's amazing that we accept as normal that our children grow up threatened to be killed. To be killed. Probably nothing scares a child more than when you tell them, watch out, there's a car coming. They jump, frightened. How can we accept that that's normal? No, that's not normal. So, I mean, we have increased life expectancy and many other things. We have learned how to survive. But I think now it's time that we learn how to live. How to live. And the most important thing is that you need to decide in Chattanooga, how do you want to live? How do you want to live? That is the key element on any of this. Because, for example, if we want children to walk to school, we need to do small schools so that the catchment area is small. But if we do gigantic schools, because, we save one principal. Instead of having two principals, we have one. Yeah, but now instead of walk to schools, they become drive to schools. And everything I'm going to say today is just as applicable of cities of 20,000 people, or 1 million, or 5 million. Because the issues are very similar. In every city, we want to be able to walk or ride bicycles, use public transit. We want to have nature close. And we were talking about equity and thinking about population growth and climate change. I mean, we see the symptoms everywhere. And not only the symptoms, but we see the consequences at the city level, at the personal level. And it's incredible that today we have some people that don't want to believe in it. But we need to decide, how do we want to live? Because it's very clear. And when we were thinking about all of this, COVID-19 arrived. And people say, changed. I think our perception changed. It was as if we had gotten some magnifying glasses to look at the cities. And we saw some things that were in front of our nose, but we were not seeing, like child poverty, and people without homes. 90% of the hotels were empty, and we were just painting rectangles on the parking lots so that people would sleep there. But on the positive side, and I remember that actually Chattanooga 50 years ago had the worst quality of air in the US. Look, not anymore. You have overcome that. But the quality of air is something that is very complex because it's invisible. We don't really know how bad it is. But then, during COVID, we found out how bad it was. Because we have seen cities that we couldn't even see the buildings. And they said, hey, stay home. Work from home for a few days. And then we saw the buildings. And city after city, we started seeing the buildings. So we realized what was possible. That's why we need to decide, how do we want to live? It's like if God had sent us a magic wand and said, hey, you want to have clean air? You can do this. You don't want to have clean air? Okay, you can go back to 2019 and continue doing the same. So we can go to Milan and not be able to see the mountains or the houses, or we can go and see everything. It's up to us. We have seen what is possible. So we need to decide. I mean, you have done a lot of great things in Chattanooga. But of course, we got to do even more every year. Millions of children, over 6 million die because of bad quality of air. Over 40 million get lungs infections for life because of bad quality of air. But on the positive side, crises also provide opportunities. For example, we said, hey, go to the parks, but be physically distanced. Well, some people do not have parks within walking distance. So if there were not enough parks, we remember that, the streets are public spaces. You know, in the US, 100 million people do not have a park within walking distance. 1 out of 3 people living in cities does not have a park within walking distance. There are some areas of Chattanooga that do not have a park within walking distance. Some people are doing a campaign, well-intentioned, but I think it's a bad campaign that is saying, let's have a park, everybody walking within 10 minutes by 2050. No, I said, let's have a park within 10 minutes by 2030. There's absolutely no reason not to do it. But anyway, this is Oakland, New Zealand. This is Oakland, California. Look, they can do something like that in Chattanooga. What happened in Oakland? They said, all the neighborhood parks, neighborhood streets, all the neighborhood streets. As of tomorrow, slow streets. What is a slow street? That only the people that live on the street can go on that street. So if you're on a big arterial and there's a traffic jam, you cannot go through the neighborhood. You wait on the arterial. 10 miles an hour. And look what happened. Children and older adults and people with disabilities and everybody enjoying it. All of a sudden they were able to have clean air and less noise, and it was safe and enjoyable. It doesn't have to be during COVID. It could be always. Why not? Also, when we had fewer cars, we have been told, oh, no, in Chattanooga we don't do protected bike lanes because it's too expensive, it takes too long. 10 years, 15 years, now we saw how they were doing it in 10 days or 15 days. This is London, Berlin, Bogota. I mean, cities all over the place, they were doing it. Really, really simple. So it's not a technical thing. It's not a financial issue either. So it didn't take decades, it took days. Most of the lanes, people just got paid and started doing it. Before, again, 10 years, 15 years, talking on markets, on the streets. And for example, golf courses. Golf courses, you can use only 250 people can play in one day, max. And the mayor of San Francisco said, this golf course, as of tomorrow, is going to be a public park. So instead of 200 people, there were thousands and thousands of people. So you need to decide if some parts of the city have golf courses, but do not have parks of similar size, what is equitable? What is, maybe the city, if it's public, could make it a park. Or maybe could turn it into a 9-hole golf and have park or something. But it's something that we need to think from the point of view of equity and sustainability and health and so on. I mean, the impossible is impossible, and we were so happy that all of these changes were taking place because we thought, okay, after COVID, we are going to change. What a wonderful opportunity. Because if we could do it over COVID, we can also do it post-COVID, and we're going to jump over it, and we're going to have a 2024 that is going to be much better, and we are going to be able to green. There's a lot of cities that are greening streets. Many of our streets in the neighborhoods are so wide that people can park on both sides, and cars can go in both directions. Imagine if you could have the choice when they're going to repave the neighborhood streets, maybe every 20 years or so, and say, hey, do you want the whole street to be pavement? Or maybe you want half of it green and half of it pavement. Some people might say, no, I want to have car storage on both sides. Others might say, no, I want it only on one side and have a green space. People are doing a lot of this. Melbourne, they have transformed over 100 acres of gray into green without creating any traffic issue because the streets are overbuilt, they're way too wide. As we speak, Paris is transforming half of the most iconic avenue, the Champs-Élysées, from gray to green. I mean, it seems so easy. The biggest public space in Chattanooga and every city are the streets, are between 25 and 30% of the city. But it's not that easy because there's other people that want more cars and more isolation. And so you gotta decide, how do you want Chattanooga to become? I had dinner with the mayor on Tuesday. It was very enjoyable. And when we were talking about some of these issues, he said, oh, but Chattanooga is special. We are unique, we are different. Consultants come and tell us, you gotta be like Malmo, or you gotta be like this. I mean, you are different. As everyone. Every city is unique. Even the way in Chattanooga, every neighborhood is unique. Every street is unique. Every park is unique. So it cannot be like on the computer that we copy and paste. No, but we can adapt and improve. We can learn from others. Others can come to Chattanooga and learn from you. I mean, everything that we're talking about, you can do it. Because if not you, then who? And if not now, then when? We really got to work on having a Chattanooga that is equitable and sustainable, where everybody can live healthy and happy. Let me tell you a little bit about, now I live in Toronto, Canada, but before I was commissioner in Bogota. I started thinking about cities in 1976, when they were having the World Conference on Human Settlements. It was the largest ever conference of the UN. And it took place in Vancouver, and I was finishing high school. One of my brothers was beginning university. And it was interesting because, just by luck, my father was in charge of it. He was the number 2 at the UN. He was Under Secretary General. And he went to 98% of the countries, inviting presidents and ministers. And he kept telling us about the things, the inequality, the good, the bad, the ugly of the cities. So we got a little bit bitten by this. And then maybe, I don't know if it was Vancouver or Habitat, but afterwards, one of my brothers later became mayor twice. And actually, he's coming out with a book that is going to be available on April, Equality and the City. And I have worked in over 350 cities in all continents. And our mother was a landscape gardener. So she taught us the love for plants and flowers. So I've been dealing with people and cities and equity and urban health. Bogota, by the way, is in the capital of Colombia, in the northern tip of South America. I'm going to talk about very few things. One is about parks and also ciclovia. I led the construction of over 200 parks all over the city, small, big, large. This was one of them. The Pope came here and gave a mass for 1 million people and then left, and nothing happened in 27 years. There were no sidewalks, there was nothing. Why nothing happened in 27 years? Because change is hard. Change is hard in Chattanooga, or in Bogota, or in Copenhagen, or in Tokyo. Everywhere change is hard. Because you try to change and the cave people show up. They are the citizens against virtually everything. But that's why you need to show up. Because you gotta find that little crack through the window and run to it. You gotta have doers. You know, people have been saying that in New York, Times Square should have been pedestrian for the last 50 years. No one done it. One doer came, Janet Salikan, and she did it. So for 27 years, nothing was done, and then in 4 years, we turned it into the nicest park for active, for passive, for contemplative recreation, for all kinds of activities, because it's also about just sitting down and looking at the flowers, something activities you want to do in groups, or you want to do by yourself. I'll talk a little bit more about parks in a minute, about the benefits and why we need parks of all sizes for all kinds of activities. But it's not only about large parks, also small parks. Most of the parks that I did were small, in very poor areas of the city. They didn't even have pavement. And so people say, why are you doing parks when the poor people have so many needs? I say, yeah, of course, they also need education and health, but they need parks. When the poor people feel miserable, it's in the leisure time, Imagine when people are working, the CEO, the owner of a corporation, or the minimum wage worker cleaning the floors, have a similar experience. Maybe the CEO has more anxiety. But in the leisure time, the CEO has cottages and country club and theaters and movies and restaurants and travels. The minimum wage worker doesn't. So in the low-income areas, we need better parks, and better sidewalks, and better bike lanes, and better schools, and better libraries, and better everything that is public. Because we cannot change the homes overnight, but we can change everything that is public almost overnight. Also, I found a small group of a few miles and a few thousand people called Ciclovia, and I led turning it into the world's largest mobile park. This could be amazing in Chattanooga. It's simple. You open street to people, you close them to cars, and the magic happens. Everybody goes up. Yeah. I went from a few miles to 75 miles. It was only on the upper income of the city, and I was obsessed with connecting everybody, the rich and the poor, and the different ethnicities, also interconnecting the parks. And people come out to bike, but also to walk, to run, to skate, to chat, to socialize, to enjoy the presence of each other. Actually, my obsession with the Ciclovia came out of a park. I was reading the biography of Frederick Olmsted, who did Central Park in New York, and he said, in New York, everybody hated everybody. The blacks and the white, the rich and the poor, the locals and the immigrants. And he said, they don't know each other. They don't live in the same building. Their kids don't go to the same school. They don't even go to the same restaurant. We need to find places where people meet as equals. And I said, wow, anything people do it, but on the streets from the point of view of social integration. And we did, young and old, and rich and poor, and fat and skinny, because this is amazing. I mean, I love marathons. People say, oh, this is like a marathon. No, it has nothing to do with marathon. Because on a marathon, you need to have the streets closed. You cannot tell the runners, hey, wait, the light is red. Yes. The small streets are closed, but all the main intersections remain open, so people can go from anywhere to anywhere. And people can do 10 minutes of exercise, or 30, or 1 hour. In Bogota, on average, people stay 4 hours and 10 minutes, but they only do 65 minutes of exercise. They walk for 20 minutes, then they see, they watch people. They change their minds. They tell people the streets are only space. They can have different uses according to the time of the day of the week of the year. It's about social integration as well. I've been promoting an accident work in cities of 10,000 people, 100,000, a million, 10 million. And in maybe some years, some of your neighbors, the Cape people don't want to do it. They say, in Bogota, it's India. Well, tell them that Paris does 52 Sundays of the year. Paris, winter in Paris is much colder than Chattanooga, much colder. They do it every 52 weeks. We need each other as equal. That is the only place where that CEO and their spouse and children meet with the minimum wage worker and the spouse and children as equals. One might be on a $5,000 bike, the other might be on a $50 bike, but it doesn't matter. I don't differentiate. It's really simple. It's low cost. The only thing is people on the street. So you got people on the street, you can do it. There's no risk. You're not building arenas or gymnasiums. You're just doing the streets. And the benefits, wow, are mental and physical health, economic development, environment, happiness. For health is great. The World Health Organization, every year they choose one topic to celebrate the World Health. They hired me to help them about 10 years ago to do this. And they said, let's do it in 1,000 cities. You're crazy? Well, we ended up doing it in over 1,100 cities. I mean, try this year. If you want, let's do it the first Sunday of every month. If it doesn't work, you don't do it next year. But if it works, then you do it every single Sunday, because that's when you get the health benefits, when it's week after week after week. Let me show you.
Community-based programs that temporarily open selected streets to people by closing them to cars. By doing this, the streets become a place where people of all ages, abilities, and backgrounds can come out and improve their health.
It's a really beautiful way to see the city. There's just tons of people, all different kinds, all different ages. There's even a segment called the Vicrovia, and this is absolutely great because they have about 28 stages with aerobics instructors and Roomba instructors, and they're giving free classes to any citizen that wants to participate. This really is something beautiful to see.
La oportunidad que tiene la familia para disfrutar la ciudad. Eso es lo mejor.
My first impressions of seeing open streets in Guadalajara is this is far beyond my expectations. I knew it would be lively and I knew there would be a lot of people, but I still just could not imagine that it would be what it was. All the people on the streets doing all sorts of activities.
I think it's important to learn from programs like this because you see how it changes the way people see their city. That it changes the way they interact with common space, with parks, with the streets, with the roads, and with each other. You saw complete strangers kind of teaching each other how to move with that sense of community.
People can begin to change their habits, and a city can change its cultural health.
¿Qué hacían estos 400,000 usuarios antes de que existiera la vía recreativa? Estaríamos en casa viendo la televisión o haciendo cosas estáticas.
I actually felt tears of joy riding because it's such an experience to be there. Riding is a sense of freedom. Seeing people in all ages, on all different bikes, with their dogs and their kids and their scooters. For me, it's an example of sustainable happiness.
Cities across North America have been moving forward, pursuing their own open streets programs, and are starting to see the power they have to get people up and active.
It can be very, very successful anywhere in the world, in any type of climate, in any type of society, because one of the things that is universal is how people enjoy the experiences of others.
Reputation is understood today.
There we go.
All these people that enjoy carpet streets from 7 a.m. to 1 p.m., 7 miles all the way up to the most iconic streets in New York, Park Avenue. It's not just about the emotion, it's also about you want to go out and have a cup of coffee and enjoy those streets and people watch. And there's wonderful
ways to get out and enjoy the streets of New York, a whole different perspective. I mean,
This is 100% urban health. It's amazing. and fun. Everybody it's about people of all ages and all backgrounds. I mean, it really great. Something else that we did is protected bikeways. 175 miles in 3 years. It was very hard because there was not an inch from Alaska to the Patagonia. And nevertheless, it created this network. Some of the neighborhoods were so poor because both my brother and I were obsessed with the levels of poverty that it's hard for you to even imagine in Chattanooga these levels of poverty. And look how this can be changed when you do really, really good quality sidewalks and bikeways, and you put trees, and you put lights, and you put plants that are for the macroclimate around. And of course, you can see that the place for the cars doesn't have any pavement. Well, there was not enough money, so it was either walking and cycling or pavement. So we need to be consistent. Look at this low-income area. This is as good bike lane as anywhere in North America. And it's in a very poor area. Now it's coming a little bit more into middle class. I mean, it's not professional video. I mean, even before COVID, Bogota had 337 miles. We have over 800,000 people using the bike daily. That's not a small number. That's more than all the population of Copenhagen together. Another thing that my brother did was some beautiful schools, 67 schools in the slums. Like I was mentioning, you cannot change the houses in 4 years, but you can change everything that is public. If you don't do highways, if you don't do roads, then you end up having a lot of money to do a lot of these things. And then there was an alliance with the private sector with the 100 best schools in the country to manage the schools. And that was amazing. Because now you have some schools being managed by the union, that they always complain that kids were doing bad, they didn't graduate, no one went to the university because they were poor. Well, now, half a mile away, there's another school that is managed by one of these schools that are top. So now you can benchmark. And like, you gotta be practical, like Deng Xiaoping said in China. He said, I don't care if the cats are white or black, as long as they catch mice. So whoever manages best the schools, let them manage the schools. Look at this, it can be transformative. 5 centers of happiness, parks all over the place. I mean, why am I showing Bogota? Because Bogota is poorer than any city in the US, way poorer. And if we are able to do some of these things, of course you can do it so much better. This is the bus rapid transit. What are the, it was amazing because it was the first time ever that people on public transit in Colombia could go faster than people in their cars. It hadn't happened ever. And now they're doing BRTs all over the world. Because this is really visible equity. When you take a look at that, and you see the cars stop on the traffic, and you see these people on the buses going by, visible. Enough about Bogota. Let me tell you, I live in Toronto for the last 25 years this May, and I've been lucky to have worked in over 350 cities all over the world. Every other week I host a webinar, and I'm so lucky. I get people from all over the world. Usually between 30 and 35 countries are represented. And there you can see any of the videos, because we only do is 30-minute presentation and 30-minute dialogue. The dialogue is only for the people that watch live. But the presentation can be seen by anybody. You can go there. And when I go to any country, people say, oh, Gil, what's 880 cities? Well, 880 cities is not about walking or cycling or parks or streets. Those are the means, not the end. 880 cities is about creating successful cities. And I like to see the venue. I came early today to see this venue. I was working in Poland and in Warsaw, and I was going to speak here the day after, and I see all of these people dancing. And I said, oh my God, how am I going to compete? And then I saw the DJ Vika. She owns the equipment and goes from park to park, from city to city. You know, AARP is a magnificent organization. They do lots of research. One of the research that they have done is that the segment of the population that creates the most businesses in the US by far is the people between 60 and 70. We might hear of Bill Gates when he was 21. That's the exception. The majority, 60 to 70. The second, 50 to 60. The third, then it goes down. It's really incredible. She's the businesswoman, goes from part to part, but let's get back to 880. So it's about healthy communities where people are going to be happier. And always people say, Gil, can my children walk to school? My grandparents ride their bike to their eggs or milk. I say, look, this is the rule of common sense, but common sense should be the least common of the senses. 880, we say, we want to, what if everything we did had to be great for an 8 and an 80? 3 steps. Step number 1, think of a child around 8 years old that you love. Your son, your daughter, your grandchild. Once you have the child, step number 2, think of an 80-year-old that you love. Your parents, your grandparents, your brothers, your sisters. And when you have the child, the older adult, then would you send them across the intersection? Would you send them walking to the park or to take public transit? If you would, it's because it's safe enough. If you would not, it's because it's not, and we need to do it better. What if everything that you did in Chattanooga, everything, the sidewalk, the crosswalk, the library, the school, the restaurants, the businesses, everything had to be great for an 8 and an 80. Not 8 to 80, 8 and 80 as an indicator, because if it's good for the 8 and it's good for the 80, it's going to be good for everybody from 0 to over 100. We're going to have a call to action that we need to stop building cities as if everybody was 30-year-old and a 10. We gotta create a city for everyone. That's what 880 is. Our mission is to challenge the status quo to create healthier and equitable, sustainable cities for all people. And we focus through 3 rights: the right to mobility, to public space, and to participate. Now I want to take you through 10 suggestions. Respectful. First, we gotta create a Chattanooga for people. We gotta do cities for people. And say, oh, it's obvious. No, it's not so obvious. In the last 100 years, this is how we've been doing cities around the world. We've been sending the poorest people everywhere. This morning I had a wonderful session with older adults. And I was telling them, look, this is the US, all cities, big, small, by zip code. The zip codes with dark red, the life expectancy is 60. In light pink is 90. How can we even accept that it's normal that if you are born in one neighborhood, your life expectancy is 60? 5 minutes away is 90. This morning, a woman raised her hand and she said, yeah, in this part of Chattanooga, we have a food desert. Even if we wanted to eat healthy, we cannot buy because there is no place to buy healthy food. Another person said, in my area, we don't have a farm. Those are the ones that are 60. Not only 60, but people say, oh, I'd rather live 60, but live 60 good years. No, they live 60 and 60 crappy years. I mean, we've been focusing on the car, and not on people's happiness, and this is the kind of cities we've been doing. We have been spending billions on mobility, and we haven't even solved mobility. This is all of Florence, Italy, and a highway intersection in Atlanta at the same scale. It seems that we have learned how to do cities, and then we don't learn. This is what happened in the US. Everybody's talking about the 15-minute city and proximity. All the cities in the US were 15-minute cities. And then we did this to the cities. Not 1 or 2 cities, all of them. Imagine how people used to go and get bread or go to the schools. This is Atlanta. Go to school, go visit friends, go for ice cream. We really messed up how we did cities. So the cities don't decide the population, but they decide the how. For example, you're going to grow by over 30% in the next 25, 30 years. So you decide the how. Are you going to do this? This is what's happening now in many places of the US. No trees, no parks. Actually, instead of parks, they're doing parking lots. There is a parking space in Houston there are 21 spaces per person. This is Kansas City, Missouri. Imagine being a child or someone with disabilities. So the last 40 years have not been good, or the last 80 years. And when I say not good, it's because not good. I mean, think of a lot of the suburbs of Chattanooga. They are not really ideal for physical or mental health or quality of air or water or economic development. I mean, we have learned how to survive. But the key is how to live. We need to learn how to live. And I really appreciate, I'm so grateful that all of you are here because you have so many options. You could have been having dinner with family or friends or watching a movie or doing. The fact that you as a group come to a room with friends or friends that you don't know yet to think about the future of the city is interesting because we got to improve the city that we have today. We got to create better cities. Second, let's create Chattanooga for children. Chattanooga should be amazing for children. Look at this, when I was working in Hong Kong, I saw this is amazing. The children love this kind. I hope at the playground will do a line of this. Sometimes, we do sculptures, we put them in the parks. The other day was in Boston, and there was a sculpture with really all of this intricate to climb, and it has signs all over. Please do not touch, please do not climb. No, if you're going to put it on a park, let people touch and climb and play. Don't put it on the public space. And a lot of this is why physical activity. The CDC has done a lot of really good documents for children, for adults, for older adults, on the benefits of physical activity to health. I love to see fathers and children now at all the parks. Because a couple of generations ago, it didn't happen much. It was mostly mothers and children. I'm really glad that's one of the ways that we have improved a lot. Fathers are taking a much stronger role. For example, Portland, they created this bike bus. And I agree with the mayor, don't be like any city, but let's learn both what to do if it's successful and what to avoid if it's not. They got every Wednesday in Portland, rain or shine. And then they start from different places of the city going to school, and they are picking up kids along the way. I mean, just go to YouTube and go and Google Bike Bus Portland, and now they have it like in 30 cities in the U.S. Let's prioritize the 0 to 4. I think just like we don't treat older people good, also we don't treat the 0 to 4. I mean, they are really precious cargo. Amazing. Why the 0 to 4 is so critical? Because those are the most important years of their life. And we really gotta focus so that they have all of the best. This is amazing. I was working in Gothenburg and they got all of these kids coming every day for a year, testing games to see what would work. Too many planners think that children are born 5 years old because you go to the parks, 5 to 12, 12 to 18, nothing 0 to 4. And 0 to 4 is the most important. We should focus. That should be the indicator in the city for the time of the crosswalks, for the park, for 0 to 4 and the caretaker. I mean, I do a lot of work with Urban 95. Urban 95 is what if we could see the city from the height of a 3-year-old? What would we change? I mean, go to a street corner and get on one knee. That's pretty much the height of a 3-year-old. And look around. Go to a park and get on one knee. There's so many things that we could change if we could see our city from the height of a 3-year-old. We gotta get all the 3, 4, 5-year-olds learning. They're gonna be the future city builders. We need them to be in nature, in the parks. This is the brain of a kid that didn't have the love, the physical activity, the proper food, and this is in those 4 years is when the brain is formed. Then it's formed for life. So if it wasn't formed properly, you are going to be handicapped for life. That's when the bones are formed, the muscles, everything. That's why we gotta give a top priority, because if we improve the beginning, we're going to improve the lives. The kids that are being born now in Chattanooga are going to live to 90. But in those 90 is about 1,000 months. In those 48 months, whatever we do or don't do in those 48 months, the love, the affection, the nutrition, the parks, nature, physical activity is going to define the potential. Like we're born with this potential and then we'll start getting the Some people get this potential, others only this, others this, others this. And people, it's really incredible that we allow people to narrow their potential for life. For life. Because they didn't get all of their basics. So we really gotta make sure that the parks and the sidewalks and the products and the trees and nutrition and daycares and everything. And also that is very close to the 3G and 4G, 3 generations, 4 generations. That's my grandchild. And now we see 3 and 4 generations in the parks. And we should adapt to that. And it's really, really great. There is nothing as happy as to go to the park with grandchildren. My kids don't like when I told them that, the people you like the most, you love the most, are your children. Until the grandchildren arrive. They say, wow! I say, "Oh." When you go to a park and you see this, and grandfather playing ball with a kid, oh, it's a good city. They are symptoms of really, really good cities. This is in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's the size of a tennis court. Half of it has games for adults, half of it has games for children. And it has a walking trail around it for people to walk. I mean, you need to have those. So the next message is we gotta create Chattanooga also great for elders. For elders. You have doubled the life expectancy in the last 130 years. Can you imagine? If you had been born more than 130 years ago, the life expectancy in Chattanooga was 31. Most of us would be there by now. Now it's almost 80. But we should be able to live older, healthier, happier. There's so much discrimination. We have done a lot eliminating discrimination by race, by ethnicity, by gender. But not by age. People keep making jokes. I don't know. You forget something and say, oh, what a senior moment. No, it's not a senior moment. I mean, we have to end discrimination with children, with adults. I mean, by the way, we're living longer and most of it is healthy years. Why do we have such a negative perception? Our body ages, but not our mind. We want to continue doing all kinds of things. Like Bernard Shaw said, we don't stop playing because we grow old. We grow old because we stop playing. And I would add, we don't stop playing and walking because we grow old. We grow old because we stop playing and walking. I mean, we view aging as a decline, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Let's gotta keep in mind, aging is not a problem to solve or a disease to cure. Aging is living. I mean, from the day we're born, we start aging, so let's fight ageism. Because we're living longer. How nice. Much, much longer. Now is 1/3 of our life as older adults. 1/3. It's huge. It's so exciting. You know, the people that have ever lived to 60, half are alive today. Half. Imagine in the hundreds of thousands of years, the people that have ever are alive today, and people are gardening, and people are eating ice cream and playing with their grandchildren. It's great. And if you think you have too many old people in Chattanooga, well, it's going to double. Population over 60. Population over 80 is going to quadruple. Today we had a session with older people. And a woman who turned 90 years last week, she raised her hand at the end. And I said, okay, what do you want for Chattanooga? Her number one request, protected bike lanes. 91% of the people in the U.S. want to age in place. But to age in place, they need a walk or a bike, or they need public transit. Number two, she needed a park because where she lives, there were no parks. So you gotta think, what is your role with this 1/3? Because it's fantastic. I mean, ageism is dumb. Elders are givers, they are not takers. Maybe we should even end the subsidies to the seniors. Why subsidize a 70-year-old millionaire just because he or she is 70? And not a 40-year-old single mom or dad in poverty because he or she is 40. In 2024, we should also, subsidies for seniors began 50 years ago when the seniors were very poor. In the US, the level of poverty was 13% and seniors was over 30%. Also, the seniors were only 10%. So 90% could subsidize 10. But now, an amazing, that is a huge achievement of the US that in only 2 generations went from being double to almost being half. Now the level of poverty in the US is about 12%, for seniors is 8%. It's less than the national average. That's really a huge success. I mean, orders are assets to the communities. They are not liabilities. We gotta change the conversation. I mean, we really have added lots and lots of years, but we hadn't added the life to those years. And the life to those years is what we should be working on. By the way, the time when we are happiest in our lives is when we are children or older adults. I know young people that are here. My children also complain, but I say, look, you are around here. And I say, I understand, you are wondering, am I going to get fired? I'm not. Do I have a job? Should I buy a house or not? Should I get married or not? Some people think of older people only as if everybody had Alzheimer's. Yeah, 10% of us will get dementia. The other 90% will get anxiety of Alzheimer's. We forget someone's name and say, oh my God, I'm getting it. But even the people with dementia should live healthier and happier within the dementia. We really gotta live older, healthier, happier, and we don't really have to do this. No worries. It's a lot easier than that. I mean, why do we need to be healthier? This is something very important. In the US, 30% of living longer is genetic and medical care. There's very little we can do about 30%, but 70% is social behavior and environment. We gotta work on that. By the way, the geriatric care in the US, only 11 of 145 med schools have geriatric. Less than 1% of the nurses want to work with older people. Less than 4% of the social workers. This is a huge crisis. 7,000 geriatricians. That means 1 for every 2,000 people over 75. So if you're over 75, you have to share geriatrician with $1,999. What does this mean? This basically means, on top of that, it's growing. 10,000 people turn 65 every day in the US. 10,000 yesterday, 10,000 today, for the last 10 years and for the next 10. These are the baby boomers. So when we think about this, we gotta focus on that 70%. And we have known this for a long time, but we are really like a frog in water. The water is getting warmer and warmer and warmer, and we're gonna be boiled in the water. We need to live healthier. We need to live healthier. By the way, everyone, not just older people. So that when we reach older age, we are healthier. The children need to be healthy, everybody. So the fourth message that Chattanooga has to work on well-being. What is well-being? Well, it's simple, it's being well. And people say, oh, it's a secret. No, it's not secret. Let me tell you, five actions that you need to do to live healthier. One, let's eat more green base. In every neighborhood of Chattanooga, let's have farmers markets. Let's have allotment gardens in the schools, in the libraries, also in all of the neighborhoods. Because even in the school of 500 students, only 40 might be gardening. But all their friends see about it, and all their friends learn. And when the tomatoes come out, everybody knows because people eat at lunchtime tomatoes that were grown in the school. We can have allotment gardens also because they're really good to develop community, for people to get to know each other. I mean, I'm not saying that everybody should be vegetarian, but if half of us, if all of us eat half as much meat as we usually do, the impact is as if half of us have become vegetarians. 2, we need to sleep. We need to sleep 8 hours. I'm not talking about the homeless. That is a human rights issue. But if you are not homeless, you should sleep 8 hours a day. There are lots and lots of studies that show everybody needs to sleep. One of the big problems with older people is that gossip has led them think that you need only 5 hours. Oh, the many times that I fight with my mom, she said, oh no, son, I read in Reader's Digest that you need only 5 hours. I said, Mom, you're wrong, you need 8 hours. This professor is a professor of Stanford, half a year, and McGill the other half a year, an expert, and he says when he's at Stanford and a student raises their hand, and if he delays 2 or 3 minutes and asks, then the student says, oh, I forgot. And then everybody laughs and says, oh, it's because he's funny or he has too many things on his mind. But if the person is 70 years old, they say, oh, it's a senior moment. No, it's not a senior moment. If you sleep 5 hours and you are 18, you forget. If you sleep 5 hours and you are 70, you also forget. So we really gotta sleep 7 to 9 hours. I mean, if you sleep 1 hour less, you lose 20% of performance. That's why all the sports teams now have experts on sleeping. Imagine you pay Messi $1 million per game. Imagine if you sleep 1 hour less, it's gonna be 20% less efficient. So we really gotta work on this. Sometimes we overvalue. We say, oh, this worker is so good. He had to work on this accounting and work all night, and now he's back at work. And look, he's working. Yeah, he's working like if he was pedaling on a stationary bike. Pedal and goes nowhere. Drowsiness. More people are killed by drowsiness than drugs and alcohol combined. People need to sleep. And it's easy to understand. When you are on drugs or alcohol, people slow but late, and then they crash. But they are able to slow a little. When people are drowsy, they hit full speed. So sleep, we gotta sleep. And the good thing about sleeping is that it's democratic, it's powerful, it's free. Third of the five, socialize. We need to socialize. And socializing is not sitting around the table with a telephone. This is socializing. This is amazing. People of all ages, everywhere. Look at these kids. They're not even thinking of a telephone when they're having so much fun. Why socialize? Because if you socialize, it increases brain health, mental and emotional health, confidence, quality of life. It decreases the blood pressure, the risk for Alzheimer's. By the way, when we talk about Alzheimer's, the only two things that delay Alzheimer's, the only two things is socializing and nature. Socialize and nature and physical activity. Those are the three things. By the way, it's not about knitting at home in front of a laptop. It's about having knitting groups. Scott, you have an amazing person running parks. This is what you're going to have to do all over the city. Knitting groups, walking groups, movie groups, all kinds of things. And of course, this is in nature, so we're going to have contact with nature everywhere. We need contact with nature at home, on the sidewalk, at work, everywhere. I love going to work in London because you go to London and the parks are beautiful, people of all ages and ethnicities. Same thing in Arizona. It was at the Desert Botanical Garden, or Hawaii. Nature. We gotta have and combine with children and elders and everybody. It's really great. And five, we need to be active, physical activity, whether cities with winter or without winter. But for example, look at these crosswalks in New York. My God, Chattanooga, you should have way better sidewalks, crosswalks than New York. Much better. Those are 5 actions. But let me take a little more detail on the physical activity. If we are active, it decreases premature deaths, strokes, certain cancers, osteoporosis, heart disease, high blood, diabetes, almost everything. It's incredible. And you don't need to run marathons. It's children only 60 minutes a day. Adults only 30 minutes a day. But it gotta be 5 days or more per week. You don't even have to do the 30 minutes at the same time. You can do 15 minutes in the morning and 15 minutes in the afternoon. So you're gonna take the bus or whatever, or you park further away or whatever. I mean, there are all kinds of stories that show the urgency of physical activity. And this is not physical activity. This is not walking. Everybody wants a magic pill. No, sorry, there is no magic pill. The only way that Chattanooga, the only way is going to be physically active is if you walk or bike or play as a normal part of everyday life. There is no other way. You don't see anywhere in the world, any city where large groups of the population do and say, oh, we all play tennis 5 days a week. No, 1 or 2 people might play tennis, but no. You might play soccer twice a week. You might go to the gym twice a week, but 5 or more days a week. That's why my friend Jan Gil says cities gotta do everything possible to walk and bike as a normal part of everyday life. But of course, sustainable mobility and parts of this is good for physical health. But there is no health if we don't have mental health. Loneliness. Loneliness causes 29% of heart disease, 32% of stroke, twice the possibility of dementia. The Surgeon General of the US says that loneliness has the equivalent impact physical health of 15 cigarettes in a day. Depression is the leading cause of disability. I mean, we gotta have contact with nature because it improves our mood, our cognitive attention. I mean, COVID was horrible, but one good thing of COVID is that mental health came out of the closet. Before, people were not telling anybody, I have depression, or once in a while I have anxiety. Now everybody talks about it. Also, people realize that if you go out in nature, it helps you. So, in Puerto Rico, I was gonna work there and then they had the hurricane. So I said, look, don't pay me 1 cent. Instead of 8 days, I'm gonna come 10 days. And I enjoyed it, and it was so nice. Talking about loneliness, it's not only the older people. Loneliness, I was talking to high school students one day. And then after I did a presentation, a high school student said, raised their hand and said, why do you talk so much about parks? It feels so hard to find someone to go to the park with. Everybody was glad. People realized it was enjoyable. I said, thank you for having had the guts to talk about this. Some kids your age, 14, 15, they end up in drugs, in alcohol, suicide. And I was telling this in a city in California, a large city in California, to the city manager and the commissioners. And then the commissioner of finance said, this city is also very hard to make friends. And all the others started joking and laughing and saying, no, you're kidding, it's so easy. And then he said, I am that 14-year-old kid. I don't have anyone to go to the park with. I have been in this city for 11 years. I have never gone to any of your houses. You have never gone to my house. I have never had anybody to go to the park with. And these people, city manager, commission, everybody was starting to cry. They couldn't believe that someone that was so lively and so good at work, the commissioner of finance, could be so lonely. Imagine that person when he retires. His only social contact was at work. So loneliness is a big, big issue that we should not joke about it. We should do all that is possible to tackle this because it is very, very important. So nature is part of it. It's not just because it looks so nice, but also it's because it's gonna lower depression, anxiety, stress. And any neighborhood in Chattanooga could be like this. There is absolutely no reason for not. So it's combining a lot of benefits together. So those are 5 actions of well-being. I think Ginger is telling me that I'm running late, so I'm going to speak very fast. We're going to talk about sustainable mobility. Who can walk in today? Good for you. Not everybody else also can walk in because every single trip begins and ends walking. We walk to the car, we walk to public transit, we walk to... Everybody walks. I mean, by the way, walking and cycling is not a joke. This could be a beautiful street anywhere in Chattanooga. Walking and cycling is not a frivolity. This little girl is telling us. Walking and cycling is the only individual mode of mobility for most people, for all children and youth. Even in the wealthiest neighborhood of Chattanooga, 30% of the people don't drive. Everyone under 16, many over 70. So it should be safe and enjoyable. It should be like a human right. Unless you think that only the people that have the money and the age and the desire to have a car have the right to individual mobility. That's why we're also talking about democracy, and human rights, and equality, and sustainability. I mean, human beings, that we walk, that's how we were made. That's how we were created. You know, the birds fly, and the fish swims. But people, we walk. We walk. And even in cities with winter walk, everybody walks. And many we walk, we're so happy because we use all our senses. We see the children playing and the youth going to school. And we hear the birds and we go in front of a coffee shop and we smell the aroma. The parents and children walk, all the adults walk. We like to walk in the summer, we like to walk in the winter, but we need to make it safe. And it is not safe. Too many people are being killed. No one should be killed. No one. It has absolutely no risk. I mean, there is Vision Zero, but some cities sign and say, oh, we're Vision Zero, but then they don't put the money or the action. We know what needs to be done. We know this street is not safe. We know that now they made it safe. I mean, if we're going to walk, we need to lower the speed in all of the neighborhoods. All of the neighborhoods have to be 20 miles an hour. Why 20 miles an hour? Not because 20 is plenty, sounds nice, but because if you get hit by a driver at 20, there is 5% probability of being killed. At 40 is more than 80%. And there are hundreds and hundreds of studies. Why don't we lower the speed in the neighborhoods? Yeah, we might take 30 seconds more, 1 minute more. By the way, when you're in a neighborhood, you're going from one block to the other, you start at 0, and there's a stop sign. You go back to 0. So instead of going 0 to 40 to 0, you go 0 to 20 to 0. So it's not that big of a difference. By the way, it's not only Oslo that no one dies in Oslo in the last 4 years. Not also people in cars. We don't want people in cars dying. No one in traffic incidents, walking or cycling or transit or car, no one. Hoboken, New Jersey. Hoboken, New Jersey, across the river from Manhattan, they put everything 20 miles an hour. All of the intersections that they cut the corners so that the cars would turn fast, they made it 90 degrees. They did road diets. For example, those cars, that's why, you know, of the top 20 countries, the most developed countries in the world, all of them, the pedestrian deaths are going down, except the US. A big reason is these cars. I'm amazed at how gigantic the cars are in Chattanooga. 2 weeks ago in France, in Paris, they had a referendum. Let's increase by 300% the taxes on the car and also the fees on the parking lots. And the referendum want to increase it. Because people are saying, you know, these cars, when people were hit by slow cars, they would break their legs. These cars, they break their lungs. So we gotta have 20 miles and enforce the 20 miles. We gotta do it. I mean, there might be ways to enforce it with technology. For example, now there are cameras that when people are on the crosswalk, if it goes the light, the green light to walk to 5, 4, 3, 2, if it detects a person walking, it doesn't give the green light to the other cars until the person crosses. I mean, there's technology and also there is creativity. Sorry. I mean, we gotta have people first, and this is not people first when we put a post in the middle of the sidewalk. A mayor in New Mexico told me, oh, Gil, look, now we have lights on the sidewalks. And I said, oh, how nice. But how not so nice that you put the post in the middle of the sidewalk. Then he said, let me show you the new sidewalks in the neighborhoods. Oh my God, they look like a roller coaster. Who's gonna go? Imagine with a baby on a stroller, taking a nap, the baby. Or if you are blind, or if you are on a walker. I mean, 20% could be a ramp. The other 80% has to be perfectly flat. Sometimes we don't even do sidewalks. We invest in these bridges and call it pedestrian bridge. No, these are car bridges. Why are we forcing a pedestrian to go up 55 steps, cross and come down 55 steps? Imagine if you are pregnant, if you have a lot of packages, or anybody. No, you should have a nice crosswalk at the end. Don't waste money on pedestrians on those bridges. Only work if there's a highway, if there cannot be a crosswalk. Otherwise, we're a crosswalk, and people are going to walk, and they're going to cross, and then the light goes back, and then the cycle starts all over again. So let's work on this. We really got to work on this walkability. This is not safe. It's really incredible. We know what is safe and what is not. The washrooms, walkers. I mean, the most important infrastructure in Chattanooga should be sidewalks. Because when you're on the street on a bicycle or a car, you're going from point A to point B. On a sidewalk, no. Sidewalks are people with boyfriends and girlfriends. And neighbors and the people selling fruits and flowers and things along the way. So the sidewalks are really, really critical. The sidewalk, we develop a sense of belonging to our city. We go to any city as tourists, we leave the bags and we go out walking. Sidewalks, we go for a coffee and sometimes we take an hour because we met someone and we sat on a bench and we are socializing. Sidewalks are really, really critical. So we really got to pay attention and doing really nice ones. Get the cars out of the sidewalks. I mean, the sidewalks really, not only the most important, but teachers that walking is more than walking. 3 generations sitting down on the sidewalk. On 20% of the sidewalk, 80% is for people who walk by. I love working in Buenos Aires because on the sidewalk I see people dancing tango. I mean, in many ways, a good city is where a child on a tricycle, remember? That's the sidewalk. That's the role of the sidewalk, the elder on a wheelchair. And also, if the child on the tricycle does well, eventually they become president. We gotta have mayors and councilors riding bicycles. And by the way, 3 generations on a bike. This could be Chattanooga. Why not? If you're going to look for bikeability in Chattanooga, I mean, if it's not safe for an 8 and an 80-year-old, it's not. Don't even call it a bike lane. Some cities do this, and they call it bike infrastructure. And then people don't use it, and they say, oh, stop investing in infrastructure because people are not using it. I mean, who's going to use it? This is not better than nothing. 55 miles an hour, so cars are going at 65 miles, and they bike lane there. I mean, look at all the space that they have to have created a protected bikeway. I mean, professionals going between trucks, but the children are going between trucks. So we gotta have a physical separation to make it safe for everybody. It's not for the 20 to 15 spandex. It's for people of all ages and all abilities. Every child in third or second grade in Chattanooga should learn how to ride a bike. And should learn the rules of the road and all of this. Also because if we educate children very, very well, they go home. And then they educate their parents. I don't know if Playcore has a game of this, but some of these are really amazing. I've seen in some cities they adapt to the size of a basketball court, and they take it to a school. The Board of Education buy for X amount of schools, and they put it for 4 weeks. Then they pick it up and go to another school, and then they send it to another school with the stop signs and all of this. Because they learn as children, and then when they are adults, they become very confident. And they bike all over the place. I mean, cycling could be amazing. Chattanooga is so flat and the weather is so perfect that cycling could be amazing. For the business, is great. In France, when they put the bike share, people were so upset because they took away 2 cars. Then they realized those 2 cars were employees that were not buying anything. Now they got 40 bikes that every 30 minutes are replacing. So we're to trails. You got a lot of really nice trails. People are recreation, no, our transportation are both. Some days you do it for recreation, some for transportation, so you can mix with the protected bike lanes. And if you can provide bikeability, a simple rule of thumb is that if you want to improve, lower the speed in all streets and develop a network. So everything I said about 20 miles for walking is the same for cycling. But you need a network of AAA bikes. What is AAA? It's for all ages and abilities. It's not for the experts. We gotta have connectivity. Don't do a bike lane that doesn't go from anywhere to anywhere and they say, oh, we don't have bicycle culture. No, you need to do networks. You gotta think of daytime and nighttime, and you gotta think of the people opening the doors. And if you don't have the money to do it permanent, don't just paint the line, put a bollard every 6 feet, and you are going to make it safe. That's why people back in Copenhagen, in Amsterdam, in so many places, because they got protected. The car was taken over in the 60s and 70s. They didn't have infrastructure. And then, when they had the oil crisis, they couldn't use their cars. They started biking. People were being killed, especially children. They were doing huge demonstrations. That's when they started doing their infrastructure. We really got to change. They did it in so many ways. This is Copenhagen. Everybody has cars. Or not everybody, but most people are wealthy and have cars. But they use it on Saturdays, on Sundays. Like if you have a car to go to Nashville, to go to Atlanta, to go other places. But to go to work, to go to school, you can do it. It's easier, it's cheaper, it's more convenient, and people can bike and people can walk, and they can do it. And also we can use public transit. They said, a civilized city is not where the poor have cars. It's where the rich use public transit. So you got to improve the public transit. Sometimes it's marketing, the name, the color, the weight. For example, like Mayor Malmo said people didn't like buses, so he put a nose, he covered the wheels, and now they look like trains. And it's walking, cycling, and transit take up a lovely space. I'm not going to take time, but the footprint, the pollution, everything is so much lower for people walking, cycling, and transit than anybody else. Also, there's going to be a recording available for anybody and to share with all of the councilors. Public transit, if you want people using it, has to have speed, frequency, and connectivity, and affordability. Also, people say there's not enough space. Well, you've got to decide the mobility map. Do you want one of these or 140 of those? One of these or 145 of those? So the public transit works is not if the wheels are rubber or metal, but if it has dedicated lanes, if it's prepaid, and so on. So let's keep that in mind. And also using cars. I got nothing against cars, but they're very, very expensive. People that have cars in the US spend 20% of their income on the car. From cash flow. And cars are very heavy, very expensive, very noisy. So we gotta find other ways to move around. I mean, if people walk and back into public transit, instead of 20%, it would be 44%. So there is nothing you can do that would have a higher impact on low-income people that downsize from 2 cars to 1 and from 1 to 0. That's from cash flow and from capital. We do houses and 20-30% of the house is for the car. People in the future are going to think we're crazy. We have so many homeless people. This housing has become so expensive for young people, and a third of the house is for the car. It's the deadliest animal in the world. 1.3 million are killed every year. I mean, Chattanooga, for parks and public things. I think an ideal cities where I want to sleep at home, but I want to live outside. This is a survey in Chattanooga. Look at this, how nice. Outdoor and nature, by far, is the number one reason, the number one thing people like in Chattanooga. People who live here, 55%. Then, because it's a beautiful city. I mean, you gotta do great parks. The great parks are if people come, stay, and come back. It's not if they win awards. Forget about the awards. Parks are for people. So should you do small or large parks? Well, you're gonna do both. Because they satisfy different needs. The small neighborhood park is where we develop a sense of belonging. We meet our neighbors. If something is happening, we go out and help because we know the neighbors. But we cannot play soccer in that one. So we gotta have also medium-sized parks. And we gotta go canoeing, so we gotta have large parks. So we gotta have all, small, medium, large. We gotta have a network. We gotta have active and passive and contemplative. It's a system that we need to have for this to work. And I think that it could be really, really great, and you have a lot of potential to do it really nice. To have amazing skateboard parks like this one. But progress. I go to the cities and it seems easy to get $1 million to do parks than a few thousands to make it work. I said, oh, let's do move in the park, we don't have money. Let's do walking groups, we don't have money. No, we gotta have money for the yoga and the walking and the fire pits. And even people that have winters, they gotta do better and more lights. I mean, everybody should have a park or a play area within a short walk. In the US, 100 million people do not. So, everybody. So if you don't have a park, let's think of what belongs to all of us. The streets, the schools, the libraries, the sidewalks. Let's go to the school. Look what TPN is doing. They've done hundreds, like over 300 in New York and in other cities. They take this and they turn it into this. Amazing. With the condition that from 7 to 4 is for the school. After 4 Saturdays and Sundays is for the community. Why so much green? Because green reduces attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder. So going from this, look, they got a lot of green gardens and green roofs and the soccer field and trees and all of this. It's amazing. And if you don't have a school, then take over a street and they get a play street. But we need to have that place. The schools shouldn't just be schools. The schools should be like the community hub where everything happens. That is used for students from 7 to 4, but for multiple other ways. We talk about sustainability. Sustainability means using existing infrastructure in multiple uses. Imagine that the schools in Chattanooga became community centers. It would be really incredible. You know, the kids, all of those are schools, and then it's really incredible. The schools could be the hub. Some people call it, could be the capital of the neighborhood. Every neighborhood could have a community center if you could turn the school for multiple uses. 7, let's create a city of neighbors, proximity. Everybody's talking about proximity. 15-minute city, having all the basic needs within walking distance. The store, the restaurant, the park, the library. All of this is doable. But we need to have some density. This is in Atlanta, the Beltline, which is quite nice how they are doing their density. You know, all of these 5, 6, 7 stories. You get the same density with 5 stories next to each other than with 50 every other block. So do a lot of density on the arterials, in the neighborhoods, in single-family housing. Allow people to subdivide their homes. So many empty nesters have a house that is too big and too expensive. Let them split it in 3 or 4. live in 1/4, rent out the other 3, and it's gonna have home. I mean, we have density, eventually everything is gonna work. Mobility, public health, but if it's wrong, nothing is gonna work. I know all of you love Taylor Swift. I'm a Swiftie too. I became a Swiftie especially when I heard her talking about cities.
In other towns or cities or whatever, things feel very spread out, but because of something about the New York, everything being on top of each other, like the night falls together. Like in LA, I love LA, but you have to plan out exactly what you're gonna do. You have to park your car, you have to tell your friends where to meet you, and you figure out where you're gonna go next, then you have to get organized. It seems like there's just this magic about the city where a night just falls together and then you end up somewhere else, and you end up somewhere else, then you end up somewhere else. It doesn't seem like it happens that much anywhere else. London, it happens a bit.
And maybe it could happen in Chattanooga, why not? Having the 15-minute city where the night falls together. And we're gonna have the neighborhood city where everything really falls together. And we're gonna be able to densify wherever you're gonna be able to have public transit so that you can have public transit and walkability and ice cream. Today people don't walk in the suburbs, mainly is because they have no place to walk to. I don't really like the 15 minutes, the 3-minute cities about developing networks of people to have dinner together or whatever. I really like more than that the 1-minute city in Sweden. The city did all of this beautiful street furniture, and the neighbors get together and decide what do they want in front of their house. Do they want pots for trees, or do they want bicycle parking, or barbecues, or whatever? They decide what they want. Why are they allowing people to decide? Because they are in a campaign that they want to increase by 400% the time outdoors. So if you work with your neighbors organizing it, then you get to know them. And then you say, oh, now that we have this, let's have a barbecue. And the smart city, everybody's talking about smart cities. Well, sometimes smart cities, like in China, you got 300 million face detection cameras. Do we want that? I don't know. Is it good? Will we feel different if it's not the government, but if it was Apple or Google, or do we feel worse when the police stops you in China? They don't ask you for your name or the driver's license, because it automatically comes through the glasses. So smart city can be very interesting, but also, I love technology for many ways. When the ozone layer was being destroyed, technology helped us. We got great technology on health, on trees, on so many things, but we need to have technology for people, not people facing technology. Now it's nice, we're walking and we know how many steps, if those steps were indoors or outdoors. When we are outdoors, if we were close to nature or not. All of that is really nice. But I think the smart city technology is not going to save us from dumb decisions. So if we have bike lanes in between people opening the doors and the cars moving, it's very dangerous. It doesn't matter what technology, this is very dangerous. So, it's not about technology, it's also about having common sense. We have this one speed, some days, some months, at some times, and some other. No, make it really, really simple, this speed and those bike lanes. On the other hand, look at this, for biking in the middle of the highway, it's almost as dangerous as these guys. But when you have something nice, it's really nice, the technology. For example, now we can do the inventory of trees in the city and know the age of the trees and the type of the trees and how to water and how much and when. So technology could be really amazing. For example, look at these bike lanes. It absorbs the sun, and through the sun it lights for 10 hours at night, it's lighting. It's really, really nice. Or counting walkers, counting cyclists, doing deliveries. More and more we're going to be doing deliveries by drones. In many places they are putting a huge tax on the surface parking if it doesn't have solar panels. If it's solar panels, no tax. If you don't have solar panels, a lot of tax. Technology, we cannot see how to work this so that the water goes right through, so you get a huge storm and the water goes. Also there are a lot of ethical decisions. If this car is going to crash, it's going to crash the tree and kill the driver or the occupant, if it's a driverless car, or it's going to kill the older person or the younger kid. I think smart cities is about people. I think smart cities is where the kids go on a bike to the daycare, or the kids are catching Pokemon on the streets, or socializing the youth, watching people go by, other people talking. So it's really nice. I mean, I think in smart cities is where you just close a little bit of a street and people start dancing. Can you wait?
To the music box and the boys, girls with the girls in their hair, while the shots and then just sit way over there. The songs in your
Scott, we did this in Chattanooga. Dancing with strangers. It's amazing. We gotta do it. It's completely doable. I mean, we gotta have people. It's about communities of all ages. Now we're almost done. Chattanooga, let's make it playful. Let's make it fun. Why? Because if you are good at anything, if you are good at making pizza, or if you are a good reporter, or you are a good teacher, or nurse, or engineer, or anything, you can live anywhere. Not anywhere in Tennessee, anywhere in the world. So we gotta think. Good city has a huge competitive advantage that cannot be copied. It's really, really important. If a company is thinking where to set up their headquarters to attract good people, and a city is really good, where the employer, there's going to be lots of employers that are going to love going there. For example, I was talking with Dan, the planner, the head of planning of the city and the county, and also with Scott in parks. They could have gone and worked in many, many cities. They chose to come to Chattanooga because they love it. They fell in love with the city and the potential to transform. So a good city has a huge competitive advantage that cannot be copied in the short term. And a bad city is very hard to fix. So, and more, when people are working partly hybrid, sometimes at home, the quality of the city is going to be very, very important. How to attract people. There's going to be more and more and more. This is going to be the number one issue in cities and countries. How to attract and retain. How to get good people. Why are these good people? Because they're the ones that are good enough to go anywhere. When people are good and say, oh, I don't care, I'll find a job. If I'm a good car mechanic, I'll find work anywhere. If I'm a good pizza maker, I'll find work. But if I'm not that good, I say, oh. So why live in Chattanooga? Why live in Chattanooga? You know, I mean, I've seen in this week so many good things, just 3 things that were not that good. 1 hour, 2 hours ago, there's no bike lanes. So the police, nice that you have police on bicycles, but not nice that they are riding their bicycles on the sidewalk. Bicycles do not belong on the sidewalks. I love going up to the mountain, but not for $15. $15, and then when I got to the top, $10 more to go into the park. It should be free. Every Chattanoogan should be able to go up and say, feel powerful. Wow, look at my city. It's so nice. You will feel so proud. Maybe you can have a donation, say, suggested fee. But any resident of the U.S. should be able to go to any national park or any state or any city park for free. That's part of the rights. Also something that I didn't like, asking permission to cross the street. I don't see any driver sticking out their hand to ask permission. Why do the pedestrians have to do it? Yes, paint is not infrastructure. I mean, there always a few things that are so easy to fix. The Biden put the bollards. This bridge is so beautiful, magnificent. Until I heard you're going to spend $26 million making it even more beautiful. How can you make it even more beautiful? I mean, spend $2 million painting. Everything that is metallic, paint it. $2 million. And then you got $24 million for something else. People don't buy. Why? Because these bikes don't go from anywhere to anywhere, don't connect. So all of that is so easy to fix. It's so easy to improve. But on the other hand, I was so excited, the project that is coming here, housing and the ball field and all of this. Wow, that's amazing. I mean, Broad Street is so wide and low traffic. There's a lot of work on how to transform it. It could be amazing. I loved it. I mean, Montague Park. Wow, imagine those 24 million from the bridge going into here. If any of you have gone to Atlanta and have seen Piedmont Park, this could be your Piedmont Park. It's really fantastic. Creating a national park city. It will be the first U.S. national park city where people said, All of our city is going to be a park. The sidewalk, the streets, the parks, everything. I mean, you have beautiful trails. Connect those trails with streets, with protected bike lanes. Oh, I enjoy going to those parks. It was really amazing. And public transport, density. You are starting to do this. Is really beautiful. Fantastic. You don't need to do 20-story buildings. 5, 6, 7. Beautiful. Amazing. This used to be surface parking. You should be so proud. This is as good as anywhere in the world. That surface parking turned into this. This is it's really incredible. Oh, that's the bridge that, look how wonderful. And then someone told me, oh, but when I go my bag in, come on, it's so little, but it's let's have priorities. It's really beautiful. Look at this. Oh my God. Families in the downtown. You know, bike share and people walking and density. I mean, Chattanooga, you are so much moving in the right direction. Because now the cities are not only going to be places to work, but they are going to be even more places to live and play. So we got to work on this. Cities that have restaurants and bars and theaters and public squares and all of this. It was, Samuel Johnson said, when a man is tired of London, he's tired of life. For there is in London all that life can afford. This should be the line in Chattanooga. Take away London and put Chattanooga. I remember one of my brothers, after he went to Duke, and afterwards he went to do a postgraduate in Paris. And he was very, very low income. He was working 12 hours a night in like a one-star hotel. And he said, wow, I didn't realize that I was poor. Because I had Paris. I had Paris. And in Paris, I took this photo at the airport of Paris. Getting lost in Paris is perfect. And it is, not only because you're going to see the Mona Lisa, but this Paris. Imagine that should be the magic of Chattanooga. That everything that is public could be truly amazing. The street, the sidewalk, the venues, the programs. I mean, the sculptures. They have an open streets program, 52 weeks. I mean, even the public washrooms. You don't have to go into a coffee shop just because you are going to go to the washroom. And then you drink coffee and then you got to go to the washroom again. I mean, all that is free, the parks, the public squares, all of that is what can give us the competitive advantage. I mean, play is essential for children's well-being and happiness, as well as helping physical and emotional growth. So we got to work on these issues. I mean, there's already really good designs and manuals, but you got Playcore here. Playcore is the best cooperation on playgrounds on schools, and now they're not just about parks. It's about building community. That playground is almost the excuse to build a better community. Imagine the amazing partnerships that you can do. Imagine that Playcore was in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. You would be saying, oh my God, Chapel Hill is so lucky to have the headquarters of Playcore. You are the one that are lucky that Playcore is here. So work together, partnerships, public and private and NGOs. And the last message is we gotta change in so many ways. I know that change is hard. But why? Because when we're gonna change, only the people that are against show up. Mostly. Some people don't even know how much it's going to benefit when Scott is doing Montague Park. Some people, so others think, oh, it's never going to happen. People will never get the money, so they don't show up. Even or others think, oh, it is going to happen, but regardless if I go or not go, no, please show up, show up. That's why many elected officials end up doing more of the same because it's easier. But so when you're going to change, keep in mind, change is not unanimous. The public good must prevail over the particular. And third, the cost of doing nothing is not nothing. It's very expensive. Focus on cities, on equity, on sustainability, everyone healthier, everyone happier, plan the city radically different, manage it radically different. This is really critical. How cities are built is the most important decision of our time. Population is not going to grow that much more. Now it's declining almost everywhere. In the US and Canada, if it wasn't for immigration, it would be declining. The top 30 countries in the world, all of them are having fewer people born than dying. So whatever you are doing now is how people are going to live for hundreds of years. And there's not going to be a Martian coming down saying, oh, I'm going to create a fun, equitable, sustainable Chattanooga. No, it's all of you. This is not technical. There's enough know-how to do it. It's not financial. It's about policy, but with a big P, that policy. Because we can have an agreement on the what. It's not Republican, it's not Democrat. No, what we're going to do is that part of the bike lane or the waterfront or the riverfront or the trails or the park, we should have an agreement on the what. Maybe there's different how we implement it. But not on the what. Create a big P because everyone must participate. Develop alliances with the public sector, private NGOs, faith groups, libraries, everyone. Develop a shared vision. The shared vision is like an image or a puzzle, but action. And then the shared vision is critical. Now, that is leading a master plan for the city, a city plan. That is so critical because that is going to be that image of the city. And then, so participate in that. Because then it doesn't matter which piece of the puzzle you are doing, as long as are pieces of the same puzzle. So you're going to have that shared vision and lots of action. And then you're going to have a Chattanooga where you live healthier and happier. Do it, but do it now. Thank you very much.